Kaur, and I'm an associate consultant with TCS. I have overall experience of 15 plus years, mainly in US and UK life insurance and pensions market. I have primarily worked on actuarial modeling, financial reporting, and consulting. These days, I have also started exploring that how AI and other emerging technologies are reshaping actuarial profession. So yeah, this is a little bit about me and my journey. I would request Shweta to give a brief introduction for herself. Shweta, over to you.
Thanks, Raman. Hello, everyone. So I come with 19 plus years of experience in life insurance domain. I have worked in Indian insurance industry. I have worked in consulting environment for 6 years. Then I have worked in a uh, BPO environment, KPS environment for almost 5 years, and almost 4.5 years back I have joined TCS. And I have worked for markets around India, US, UK, New Zealand, and Australia. I have deep experience in modeling, product pricing, valuation, and now I am working towards the business development sites across globe. So thanks a lot and really warm welcome to all of you. Thanks, Raman.
Thank you, Shweta. So coming back to today's topic, the future actually beyond exams to career success. So to start with, first of all, I want to say that this session is actually curated for freshers and all the young aspirants or young professionals. If there are some professionals which have already spent a lot of time in the market, please feel free to add your perspective as well, because that is going to be very helpful to other students who are going to start their journey of actuarial. Okay, so to start with, I would like to understand that how many of you think that passing actuarial exam is the biggest challenge to become a successful actuary? Can you please write your answers in the chat? Yes, no, maybe. Yes, yes, partially. No, mostly actually. Nice. Without it, no entry. It is one of the requirements. Yes. Okay. I can see lots of messages saying yes. There are few people who say no as well, or it is just an entry. So we have very diverse answers to it. Yeah. So honestly, when somebody would have asked me this question 15 years back, I would have said the same thing, because I had this thing in my mind that once I will clear my exams, or maybe I have enough exams, I will have a very successful career and there is no way back to it. But honestly, after spending time in the industry, I can tell you a little different story. Passing exams will definitely going to open the doors for you. It will, because it is extremely important. But how good or how successful your career is going to be, that will depend on everything you do after walking through that door. So in today's changing environment where actuarial profession itself is changing rapidly, so AI has already started doing all the manual jobs that we used to do. Data analytics has become central to the business decisions. Climate risk is already posing challenges to insurers, life insurers, right? So in that changing environment, now employers are not looking for any actuaries who are going to build models for them. They want someone who is going to build model for them, can communicate results to the stakeholders and influence the business decisions. So in today's session, that's why we are not going to discuss about how to clear exams or how to pass more exams. It will be more about that how to get a successful career once you are entering into the profession. With that, I would like to ask you one question. What do you all think when the word actuary comes to your mind at first? I would like to give you some options. That what do you think actuaries spend most of their time doing? Is it complex mathematics, coding, business decision making, or risk management? Feel free to write your answers in the chat. And you can just choose whatever you feel appropriate at this time of your understanding. Nothing is right or wrong. Let's see. Risk management. D&D. All. Analytical work. Risk management. Probability. Risk management. Analysis. Risk management. They undertake complex maths coding for managing the risk. Nice. So these days students have much more broader perspective then. So when we started, I think we have that thought process that actually is someone who is going to sit in front of a laptop and working on spreadsheets, work on complex codings throughout the day, and then do risk management and calculate numbers and help the companies. I think most of us are thinking like that, that we will use complex mathematics and then help in risk management, right? So if, let's see how this is true, right? What do actuaries actually do on a daily basis when we go to office, right? So there are different questions that business gets on a daily basis, right? For example, insurance companies will get a question that, okay, we are having a new product. How much price is for that new product? Okay. How much reserve we should have so that we can pay the future claims to the policy holders. Similarly, a pension employer will think, okay, how much money I should have so that I can pay to our retirees in future, right? Similarly, banks and other companies like they will think what could go wrong? How much capital do we need to stay financially strong, right? Then there are business decisions also that actuaries need to help on, right? So actuaries help businesses to answer questions. They don't simply do maths or risk management or we would say coding. They will use them as a tool to reach to the business decisions. So for example, during COVID, right, we all thought that death rate has been increased dramatically, right? Everywhere we were listening that, okay, insurance companies are not paying bill. Maybe insurance companies themselves were afraid at that moment that, okay, what will happen? How much premium we are going to pay? How our reserves look like, right? At that moment, there are multiple scenarios that need to look into. So it is not like that COVID happened and deaths are getting increased. So there should be change in the assumptions, reserves, because they not only depends on only one thing, right? If deaths were increasing because of COVID virus, on the other hand, deaths were almost negligible due to accidents. People have started taking care of them. They get out of their sedentary lifestyles. That also helped in reducing the death rate. So who is going to see that how these assumptions are interacting with each other? Actuaries. They will help insurance companies to understand whether one major event is going to impact the future assumptions or not. What are the drivers that are actually impacting those assumptions? Should we assume that directly that okay, reserves need to be increased, or there is some analysis going to support that okay, we are, wherever we are, it is a one-time event. So that's what actuaries do today. But is that something that what we are doing today to help businesses in answering their questions, right? Is the profession is going to be same for the say for the next 5 or 10 years? The answer is probably not. But why would profession change? We all know that profession is changing faster than ever. Is there any responses that anyone would like to attempt for that? Why is the profession changing? Try to write in the chat box, please. Wow. Uncertainty, AI, AI, AI. AI doing the analysis. Artificial intelligence. Yeah, great. Mostly people are saying AI, and there are others also, cyber security. So yeah, the first is technology, definitely. Technology is changing faster than ever. We all know that in the beginning, actuaries used to collect data, refine the data, and then used to process that data. But today, in the world of AI or cloud computing, we can just process the data in minutes, and we have access to enormous amount of data, right? So now the actuaries are not supposed to do any manual work. They are actually supposed to do more of a interpreting results and supporting businesses ever. Along with it, somebody wrote that businesses are getting evolved. Yes, businesses are getting evolved and they are getting complex, because of which customers' demand is getting changed, getting evolved. So in the past, if we say that actuaries used to interpret results and support the business decision, now we say that how fast actuary can interpret the result and how fast it can give us the better decision, better informed decisions. And then the third thing is emerging risk. Yes, climate risk, or maybe cyber risk, ESG integration, regulatory compliance. All these things were never in the discussion if we talk about a couple of decades before. They were there, but it was not a major point of discussion. But today, whenever there is any strategic initiative, discussions are happening in the boardroom. Every company will have these as a major risk points. So yeah, all these factors are becoming a major drivers of changing the profession, like why profession is changing, right? But now, if we understood that what actuaries do and why is the profession changing, right? So now we should be able to understand that how evolution looks like. So we all understood that actuaries have been gone through several stages of evolution. If we talk about past, initially actuaries were responsible only for calculations and you can say compliance. So they use an actuary was responsible to ensure that numbers are correct, reserves are accurate, and compliance is met. But the more businesses got evolved, that took another step, that businesses were expecting actually not only to simply produce the number, they wanted to interpret the results and support in business decisions. But then today's actuary, now we use analytics and automation in all the manual works, right? So now it is not about only giving insights and taking business decision. It is about faster insight and faster business decisions. We need to partner with the business to get insights and influence their decisions. And then here comes the future actuary. Future actuary is not the one that he will be only technically smarter. Future actuary will have combination of all the roles. He has to be strong in technology. He has to be effective communicator, has to be data driven thinking, and someone who is good with all the emerging technologies like AI today. So it is not about only learning the technology. It is about how smartly you are able to support that as well. So they have to be a business advisor now. So then here comes the next quiz. Which activities can AI perform today? Would you like to give it a chance? Data cleansing, pattern recognition, report drafting, setting assumptions, regulatory judgment, ethical decision making. What do you think? Can AI perform all these activities? Or there are some activities which are still not in control of AI? Please write your answer in the chat. Setting assumption, pattern recognition, ethical decision making. So won't be accurate. All but not accurately. Almost nearly everything. Nice. Code drafting. Yeah, so we have various responses: setting assumption, regulatory judgment, and ethical decisions. Making stick in the hand of actuary. Awesome. Yeah, so someone just said that setting assumptions, regulatory judgment, and ethical decision making. Yeah. So today, AI, yes, AI can do data cleansing. AI can do pattern recognition as well, and report drafting also. But is the setting assumptions where you need to take ownership, regulatory judgment, and ethical decision making. These three things are still not in control of AI. These three things require human judgment. and domain expertise. Like in my previous example of AI, I said that yes, there was someone who is going to look into the all the parameters, that is there any, how it results are impacting customer, how they are impacting regulatory requirement, how they are financially impacting the client. All these things need to be looked into together with an accountability where machines can't take any accountability. And we all have seen or maybe experienced that multiple times using AI tools. So with this, we come to the next question. I'm sure all of you have gone through that question multiple times in your head, that if AI has started doing these things, is it going to replace actuarial profession? Or maybe somebody, if I assume that there are most of students are there, so you might have get this question from your parents as well, that is it the right time to enter into the profession where all the things are happening with AI, right? So I would like to tell you that AI can clean and efficiently process data, big, huge data sets, right? It can identify patterns, it can identify anomalies, and maybe give us some proposals as well. It can generate reports as well. For example, if there is an insurance company who noticed that there is an increase in claim, right, for in a particular geographical area. So what AI can do, AI can quickly look into the thousands or lakhs of records and that identify the pattern, maybe give the possible reasons also, right? So that analysis we can take from AI. But is AI going to tell us that is there need to change the premium? Is it one time event or it is going to be again? Or there is increase in reserves or not? Is there any going to be regulatory requirement or not? All these questions are going to be taken by human judgment. Professional judgment would be needed for these questions. Because our work as an actuary does not stop at the point of where analysis is done. Today's actuary is going to start their work from analysis. We will take results from AI, we will proofread that, we will validate those results, and then we will work on it further to help businesses in taking decisions. So then the question should not be, will AI replace actuaries? I think the better question will be that will actuaries who knows AI are going to replace the actuary who don't, who do not use AI? In that, if I say AI plus actuary is going to be much greater than AI, right? That is going to be the future reality. But AI plus actuary is going to be greater than traditional actuary as well. Because we need to learn the emerging technology, we have to take that support to become successful in our career. So with this point, if we establish that, okay, AI is not going to replace actuaries, but we also understood that it is going to change the way actuaries work. It is definitely going to change the way of work that we do. Then how to deal with such scenarios, the changing world environment, right? If we look into the career pathways for actuaries in the past, like when we were small kids, we used to have only few options, doctor, engineer, teacher, right? But similarly, when we talk about actuaries, in the beginning of years, we only have few options that, okay, somebody can go into life insurance, general insurance, pensions, consulting, right? But today we have multiple emergent lines: enterprise risk management, climate risk, ESG, data science, insurtech, banking risk, investment analysis. all these pathways are open for actuaries because they lead risk. Analysis can be done by any tool, but where it comes into the business decision making, they need a professional judgment. And that is where we play a role to support businesses. I'm sure we have like good broad audience today. So what do you think? What are your interest? Which area interests you most? Life insurance, general insurance, pensions, risk management, climate risk, data science, ESG, insurtech. Which one is of your interest? Or maybe you know some other areas as well. Can we have someone to write your options? Oh, how do actuaries contribute ERM and ESG? Okay, management and data science. Data science, nice. Life and risk management, enterprise risk management, general insurance. Wow. See, we have a lot of aspiring actuaries which having interest in different fields, right? Stock market, nice. So from here, I understand that these are very interesting areas, right? So I would request now my colleague Shweta Vij to take you ahead and help you understand that how you can achieve these interest areas in your career and get a successful career. Thank you. Over to you, Shweta. Thank you.
Thanks, Raman, for such a powerful session, and I'm glad you did it so well. Uh, I hope participants have also gained a lot of new things, new exposure. So let us move. So first of all, I would like to congratulate you all on choosing one of the most intellectually rewarding profession. You are, if you are working, or else you will not just be joining a job, you will be entering a profession that influences the financial security of millions of people. You choose anything, you are doing, you will be involved in a job that is, supporting or securing millions or billions of people. So why it matters? So because we work towards protecting families or businesses from their financial loss, supporting the pension system, supporting companies so that they can take calculated risks, or we work towards managing financial, climate, catastrophe risk. So, in a nutshell, we are, working towards all these areas. So, congratulate you all. Look, wish you all for a very successful career ahead. Um, Aman, please move to the next slide. Now, what do you think when we take interviews, or what an employer looks for, really looks for? Any pointers that you would like to highlight? The most critical point that we are meeting in here. Good. So the pointers I would like to highlight are like strong analytical skills, curiosity, problem solving attitudes, communication skills, business understanding, integrity, professionalism, continuous learning, and the person should be team player. So these are like, not in a, proper order, but these are certain requirements that, people we look for forward when we are seeking and taking an interview for any practitioners. So none of the employer hire professionals for what they know today. We hire professionals to, and after analyzing that how quickly that they can learn, how responsible the professional is, and how well the professional can inculcate the values of the employer, the professional that you can become in the long term. So, in a nutshell, it is not only related to exams, it is a combination of everything. Thanks, Raman. What do you think? What are the common mistakes made by the young professionals? So, what are the things that you think that maybe you are not doing right, or what you can do better? So, any pointers here? Poor communication, not focusing on grammar, communication and ability to take, trying for many internship, not working in teams, poor communication, no network, technical communications. Great, 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 great. So mostly you all have listed out most of the points. Um, if I have to summarize, only focus on exams, no focus on the softer skills, waiting for waiting for what to do next, not taking initiative, not taking feedback or development needs in a positive manner, fear of mistakes. We all learn from mistakes. No one become Virat Kohli's after just one good inning. Great careers are built through consistent practice, resilience after multiple setbacks, and willingness to keep improving. Our actual career is no different. So work towards all these pointers. Take feedback very positive. Work towards building the network, and just make mistakes, learn from it, and do not repeat it. Try not to repeat it. Thanks, Raman. Let us move to the next slide. Now, the values, the technical skills that we value. Any pointers? Raman has covered a lot, and we all know. But what do you think more? We can list it down. What kind of a communication needs in an actuary? We will be discussing towards the end of this thing. Good question. Anything that you can think of, software and tools, great. Excel, SQL, Python, great. Programming, Excel, R, great. Python, great. So, so when we take interviews, we definitely look towards the attitude of the practitioner that we are talking to. But there are few things that that would be really good if we all can work together. So it is like strong mathematical and the statistical foundation, Excel, SQL, programming languages, data visualization, insurance knowledge, knowledge towards the financial reporting, actuarial modeling, work on the understanding and the willingness to adopt AI and the automation, data quality control, business and the commercial awareness, documentation. Because we all are starting our career, do not aim to know every software or every regulation before you start. Work towards building a very strong foundation or the fundamentals in mathematics, Excel, AI, SQL, programming. Technology will change, but your ability to think analytically and to solve business problems will make you valuable. The actuaries who combine the technical excellence with business understanding and their communication skills The combination of this will take you the to be a leader of tomorrow. So work towards that. But do not go in hasty to learn everything. Do not enroll in multiple courses so that you become jack of all. Work at this phase, work have a very strong foundation. Next slide, please. We covered this, so we can move. Okay. Now, the career accelerators. What do you think are, at this stage can take you to the next stage? So, what have got you here will not take you to the next level. So, what are the things that you think that can help you to grow in this career? That is very important. Once you are in game, you started your professional journey. What are the things that you think of can help you to achieve the next stages of your career? Pointers. Learning from mistake, jack of all. Great. Any more pointers? Lead projects, at least responsibility, good decision making. Great. Great. Group discussions, very good. Communications and soft skills, willingness to learn and grow each day. Storytelling, great. Seems like many of us are working as well. Great. Any more pointers? Financial literacy, great. Mm-hmm. So again, mostly, ma'am, I had a question. Who is this person? Radhika. We can park this question. How jack of all can be a better than master of one, ma'am? We will definitely answer all these questions. Okay, sure. We will just park your questions. We will answer everything. So, the career thing, we in actuarial profession, the most or the underlying thing is exams. We all have to clear exams. And along with that, exams will open the door. But again, that is not only the most important thing that we have to have. We have to, along with that, master the technology. That is the ask of the time. We have to have that. Build business acumen. Be a very good communicator. If not, if you think that anyone lacks behind that, practice makes a man perfect. Build your reputation. That is very important. Seek feedback and take it seriously and work towards that. Find mentors. Very important. Volunteer for challenging assignment. Do not only seek that the work that you are doing, ask for more complex work. Build cross functional knowledge. If you are a part of one team, try to understand what others are doing so that you can understand to connect the dots. You will have a bigger picture of and bigger knowledge of the business. Stay curious. Work towards building your network. Have a LinkedIn profile. Write a very good, truthful, self portrait of yourself. That helps. Connect with people. Build your brand. And final advice, which was given to me by my leader, during very early phase when I started my career. So our career is not a 100-meter sprint. It is a marathon with many, many milestones. Exams will open doors for us. Technical skills will make us productive. Communications will earn influence over many others. So when you will talk, you will be heard. People with a good communication skills. That is very important. Integrity will build trust so that have a person that in a team that we have given work or assign this thing to this work, this will be done. That will build trust. Curiosity will drive innovation. So be curious, be hungry. Be hungry for everything. Try not to just generate numbers from the model. Look through it, deep dive into it, ask many questions at this stage, have very strong foundation. And habit of continuous learning will keep us relevant because someone become someone, people want uh, you to be a part of their team, and do not become a person who just sit and solve equations. That is not the thing now, because that equation solving and all those things we have now, AI can have can be done with that. AI, when we think about AI, think AI as a calculator of 21st century or just an Excel. It is the most essential tool of everyday working. The future actuaries will be like, the best who has knowledge, who can work on AI, can have technical excellence, business understanding, and how to use AI in day to day activities. That will help us to make successful. So, in a nutshell, a combination of that, all these things will help you to grow and demonstrate your career, and you will have a very strong and successful career. So now, few case studies that we have. So, very simple thing. Uh, you know, there is a rise in mortality in our region. Um, and we have observed that the mortality has increased by, almost 8%. What do you think? What could be the proper possible causes of that? All four. Great. Mm-hmm. B, all except data issues. Okay. All four. Great. Anything apart from this? Maybe something we have not captured here. This map seems like Kashmir, so I think terrorism. Great. Rising morbidity, wrong assumptions, better lifestyle due to reforms. Okay. Mortality has increased. Combination of all factors, but weighting given to different inflation. Inflation is related to mortality. Great. Modeling biases. Okay. Yeah, Raman, would you like to highlight something here? Great responses are coming. One off event.
Nice.
Great. Very good thought.
Yes, very, very possible causes that people have mentioned.
Really.
Yeah, I have a good group
Okay.
of
Increase in
upcoming
harmful
actuaries.
substances in food chains. Great. You all are thinking like, proper actually. More factors, more complex model, taking account many factors. Pollution. Wow. Definitely,
So,
we cannot add all these factors. Yeah, Raman, go ahead.
yeah, just Shweta.
Yeah, you want to go ahead with that?
No, no, go, go.
Okay. So, very, very, just move to the previous one. Yeah. So very clearly, you have mentioned all the pointers. So in case just a small ask, what you can do if you all are studying CT5, then work towards preparing a very simple pricing model. Take more mortality data from the IAI website they have, and see what will be the impact on profitability or PVIF with in 8% increase in mortality. Use just build a simple term product. That would be a good exercise for you all. See, just see simply increasing by 8%, how things changes. Yeah, next one. You want to take it, Raman?
Yeah, I can take it. So when we are saying that rising mortality as an actuary, right? So it seems to be a question. Whenever a client comes to us, it doesn't come with the requirement that, okay, create a model for me. No. So this case study actually we just showed to give you a flavor of it, that when client will come, they will come with a problem statement that, we are observing high mortality in the particular region, right? So can you please look into that? So being an actuary, we will follow our own process. Like, first of all, we will try to see that, okay, what are the possible causes? And thanks to all of you, not only these four that are on screen, you have given us multiple other causes, right? So that's what I said, that an actuary has to have an eye to include all the factors, driving factors on a particular assumption, right? So once we have those possible causes, we need to look into that what kind of data we need to have for creating reach to the results, right? So we can say that claims, weather, geography, age distribution, all these things are going to be a part of the analysis that we are going to have, right? What kind of claims are coming? How many claims of coming? Mortality is happening because of, like, what are the reasons of mortality, right? If you go into weather sites of many other, sorry, the government sites of many countries, you will see that they will give you the reason of mortality as well. That, okay, due to heat wave, this many people have been died. Due to cold wave, or maybe due to snowfall, this many people have died. So all that data, weather data, claims data, geography, everything is going to be a part of our analysis. We have to collect that data, you process that data using various machine learning tools, and then we have to reach to a conclusion that this is the reason that increase in mortality is happening. And it's not, we are when client is coming to us that, okay, look into this, we will not go back to tell them that, okay, you told us this and we have analyzed and this is the reason and that is the impact, right? That is incomplete role of actuary. So we have to tell them, by completing our analysis, creating models, creating projections with those models, right, to tell them that, okay, this was your problem, that mortality is increasing in a particular area, and now this is the reason. We have quantified the impact because of this factor, right? And now this is the possible solution to it. And that's how I said that initially actuary's role is mainly based on supporting businesses and partnering with them. We have to be their advisor now, that you need to follow this step, and this can help you in achieving your own targets. So that's the kind of work that an actuary will do on a daily basis. And yes, definitely AI can play a role. AI gives you a pattern detection, clustering, trend analysis, right? So you can see that, one time I was looking into the data. Honestly, it was like that there is a hospitalization data and there is a count of deaths, right? And we were actually looking into something else. And when you use AI can actually, without even a human eye, it can relate the two fields, that deaths are increasing in these particular months, right? Hospitalization rate is, oh, sorry, heat wave is increasing in a particular month. And we can see that simultaneously hospitalization is also increasing, or maybe hospitalization is increasing after 1 week, right? So AI is checking or detecting the patterns that how heat wave, a weather condition, is impacting the hospitalization of a particular geography, right? So all that analysis can be done by machines now. So we do not have to put our efforts in manual work, but what results we are getting, then we have to see that how to interpret those results and how to use those results in solving business problems as quickly as possible. And that is where, as we just mentioned, that actuarial judgment would be needing assumption settings, interpretation, and material assessment, that how we can create assumptions using the analysis done by machines, how we can interpret those results provided by models, and then how we can implement those results in the business decisions. Because if howsoever it doesn't matter how good your results are until you are not able to influence business decisions, right? Till the time you are not giving them relevant decisions and you're not helping in business decisions, the work is not going to be complete. And then communication itself, obviously, that is where the business actions will come. That once you have decided business actions, you have to communicate that to client so that they can understand and work on it. So we are almost at the end of the session about key takeaways. So yeah, as we started with, exams are necessary but not sufficient. We need to learn technology. We have to build business understanding, because technology exams ultimately leads to the final requirement of business understanding. We have to develop communication skills so that we can communicate our results to the stakeholders and influence their decision. Stay curious so that we can learn everything around whatever is relevant to us. Become a trusted advisor and not just a modeler, because we have already a lot of modelers in the world. We need to have trusted advisors now who can get the results and communicate that to stakeholders. I think we are open to questions now. Shweta, do you have anything to add on this?
No, Raman, you articulated it very well. Thank you. So now we can take questions one by one.
Yeah. You all can raise hands. Yeah. Shweta, should I read questions for you and you can take them? How do we land a job without, I think, okay. So, mostly all the employers look for experienced candidate only. So if they don't hire the freshers in the first place, how can one build experience? Shweta, do you want to answer this one? Hello, Shweta, can you hear me?
Yeah. What is the question that you want me
Yeah,
to take?
so it is mostly all the employers look for experienced candidate only. So if they don't hire the freshers in the first place, how can one build experience?
I do not know where it is coming from because every organizations definitely hires uh, freshers. That is how we started our career. And if I talk about my current present employee TCS, we have yearly certain exams that comes at a certain frequency, maybe biannual or half yearly or on an annual phase. It is an open exam, and all the advertisement and everything is done, and then the practitioner has to clear that exam, and then the interview calls come, and then proper proper screening happens, and that's how we definitely select. And in a year, I cannot talk about many other organizations. In a year, we in TCS we hire around 12 to 15 practitioners. So that is the company that I can vouch for. But I, Raman, and many more practitioners have started our career at some point of time, and that's where we are experienced now. So all companies hire, but however, you need to work towards your own network. Prepare a LinkedIn profile, write a relevant content in it, and also I also mentioned another important thing is have mentors. So mentors also help because sometimes you may not be aware that that particular company is hiring a fresher. So have relevant mentors and build towards working on a very strong network of yourself. So that is another thing. And once given a chance, have such a strong communication skill that no one says no to it, and work towards taking any feedback very strongly, positively, and work towards it. So that is what my response is.
Great.
So please look towards it. It is a properly advertised exam that TCS have. So take that exam if interested, and then once selected, you will definitely be welcomed in TCS. You all will be.
Yeah. Great. Shweta, we have another question. Are there any papers that give candidates an advantage at the time of hiring? How can a student with no prior actuarial experience secure their first actuarial internship?
So, so there are certain foundations that a practitioner should have: a strong statistics and mathematical understanding, which is paper that that practitioner should start with. Then another paper, economics, that will help you to connect business dots and will help you uh, uh, to talk about what is happening in a global market, and you will develop that understanding. That is another thing. And if you have cleared all those exams, then specialized paper like life insurance or general insurance papers will help. But the company that you are going to appear for, have looked through their website, have certain idea about the publicly available information, like the business side, how big is the company, the number of branches, so that you can talk sense and talk in terms of numbers, so that they will see that you have invested certain time and you are very well prepared. So that is what I would say.
Great. We have another question. What are the technical skills we can learn before entering into jobs? I
Like
think
I
we
said,
discussed. Yeah.
just beginning of the career, do not jump into all the things. Have very strong foundation. Have very strong foundation. Whatever you know, you should know very well.
Yeah. So I've just wanted to add my experience in this. I was taking interview once and someone came to me and said that I have, like, it was in their resume that I have created models using Python. So I said, do you know Python? How good you are in Python? So the answer I got is, I don't know Python. It's like, then how did you create that model? I just used ChatGPT and whatever it said, I just followed that and I created that model. So now I don't know if knowing AI is a good thing or a bad thing, that somebody doesn't know even the basics of the thing that they are mentioning in their resume, right? So whenever, even if you are a fresher, just try to write whatever is relevant to you, whatever you are good at. Even if it is Excel, Python, SQL, like you do not know 10 things, but if you know only 3 or 4 things, write them, but be confident that you are able to answer them properly with the confidence. Rather, you are writing 10 things and then somebody is asking you questions and you are saying, no, no, I don't know, I just wrote it like that. So that is where an interviewer just get a step back. So there is another question. How do we land a job without learning how to automate using AI? Because unless we get a job, we won't understand how to automate using AI. So if an employer looks for this, what can be done? That's an interesting question. So, Shweta, would you like to take this one?
Sorry, Raman, maybe I was reading some other question. Can you repeat
Okay,
it?
no worries. Yeah. How do we land a job without learning how to automate using AI? Because unless we get a job, we won't understand how to automate using AI. So if an employer looks for this, what can be done?
So, like I will tell you again, I will repeat it again that no professional, no employer at this stage when you are starting your career, no employer hire a practitioners for what you know now. All the practitioners hire employers hire professionals, but they will become in 10 years from down the line. They hire quickly, they assess that what how quickly you can learn, how responsible you can be. So work towards when you are answering a question, because employer is just investigating that from all your answers, that how quickly you can learn, how responsible you will be, how well you will be able to inculcate the values of that organizations. And grooming, automation, AI, and what not, the tools that a company using or the company want you to involved in, they will groom you in all those things. That is their job. But they see the values that you have and the things that you will bring to the table. They are not seeking you to be client ready from day one. So no, even when we are working on any project, there is a time transition phase where the expectations are low, and once the we are into the system, then the expectations grows. So the when the employer is hiring any of the practitioners at the beginning of their career, the expectations are such that the person will is ready to learn, is open to feedback. So these values should be there, and that's where you all should work upon.
Great. I think we can take other questions, or maybe you can email the questions to.
So just one announcement that I would like to mention. There is a certification program that AI is coming up, that will talk. So, there were some questions, Raman, if I'm not wrong, during the earlier phase of the this session, people were talking about how communication will help us and all that. So,
Yes.
catering to that, IAI is coming up with a certification program. So, someone from IAI or Raman, you want to talk about it?
No, no, you can go ahead, Shweta.
I think someone from IAI wanted to talk about it, but yeah, so there's a well customized program, especially catering to freshers or people who are in their initial phase of their career. So the IAI is coming up with a certification program. The link will be shared in the chat. You all can go through it, because we are just coming towards the end of the session. So I thought that let me highlight it. So that will also help you to groom yourself to appear for an interview. That would also be an added skill, that when you are talking in a interview, how well you can articulate your pointers. So any more question, Raman, that you
I
think that
think we have lot of questions, but we are out of time now. So
yeah,
anyone if would like to have a discussion, please you can email the questions to
to Banita and yeah.
yeah, Benita and Riti, and you can connect us on LinkedIn if anyone want to discuss anything specifically regarding your career. We would love to answer your questions over there as well. thank you. Thank you all for your time. And I would like to thank you, IAI, Riddhi, Binita, for organizing this. And thank you, Shweta, for being a part of it.
Thanks a lot, Raman. Thanks a lot, IAI, Benita, Reddy, especially. And thanks a lot, everyone, for taking out your time and listening to us. I hope this will help you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you.